Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. And we have a bad comic today. Welcome to the conclusion of Event Comics Month 3, Crisis of the Secret House. No, go to hell. This one doesn't deserve the cool intro sequence. Screw this event. Say what you will about Secret Empire, and I sure as hell said a lot, but at least it felt like a victory. That after all the hardships the heroes went through, at least in the end the villain was defeated. That good had triumphed, and that even if I don't feel like it understood what it was trying to say, it felt like it was saying something triumphant and hopeful. And there are still people who are willing to defend it, arguing passionately about various points that I brought up and made counter-arguments to some of my critiques. While I still can't agree with their opinions, clearly it's a story that resonated with people, and there was stuff one could argue about. But not this one! Oh, I'm sure it has its defenders out there, but they're so few and far between that I have not seen anybody wanting me to review it in the positive. And oh me, oh my, did people want me to review it. Oh my god, you guys, it was totally a big shock that this one had overwhelmingly the most amount of votes for Event Comics Month 3. This is my shocked face. A shock the fourth wall started early this year. It was actually even more votes than Infinite Crisis got, by an even bigger margin than that. Sure, I'm certain that part of this was me hyping it up after the review of Batman number 45 to 47, aka The Gift, but this was an event that pissed off a lot of people. Infinite Crisis was likely voted for because they wanted to see me make fun of Superboy Prime again. Heroes in Crisis was voted for because this one is just offensive. Heroes in Crisis is a comic that deals with mental health issues. Poorly. Very poorly. And yet it was a comic that, much like others we've dealt with on the show, people were kind of interested in. Let's face it, general pop media, in particular superheroes, deals with the subject of mental health in a pretty crappy fashion. Oftentimes, psychiatry, counseling, and psychology are scoffed at, perceived as just spouting inane psychobabble, or they're just seen as a form of weakness because they deal with our, gasp, feelings. You know, those things that are kinda important for how we interact with ourselves and each other. Or mental health professionals can also often be portrayed as villainous, just predatory behavior meant to take advantage of a hero by getting them to spill all their secrets. Institutions supposedly devoted to helping the mentally ill are either factories for more villainy, or just revolving door buildings like Arkham Asylum. And then there's mental illness itself portrayed as villainous. In these sorts of stories, those who have some form of mental illness range from the psychopathic to the overly ambitious and sociopathic. And indeed, comic books are especially guilty of this. We have seen it during Event Comics Month this year. Taking the books on their own without the stuff that happened later, the Scarlet Witch clearly suffers from extreme trauma, delusions, and depression, and she is considered a villain to be put down instead of helped. Hal Jordan went mad with grief, murdering countless friends to amass power so he could reshape the universe to his liking, and he gets an arrow in his chest. Hydra Cap was not mentally ill. You don't need to be mentally ill to be evil. Yet often media will say they go hand in hand. And thus we get to Heroes in Crisis. In theory, it was to be a story that explored the subject of mental health in superheroes. Depression, PTSD, trauma, etc. Issues that superhero books do not normally address, because it's not something that's easy to wrap up at the end of a story by punching it. And punching things is kind of the default solution to problems in superhero books. And dear lord, do we all wish we could just punch depression in the face. So I suppose I should get into some backstory for this. One you already know, that Batman storyline called The Gift, wherein Booster Gold suddenly thinks that sparing Bruce's parents to show him a dark alternate world that would result from them living is a good wedding present, and all the horrible events that followed from that. But let's back up a bit, shall we? In 2016, 2 years after the New 52 branding had stopped appearing in comics, DC launched the Rebirth Initiative with, well, the DC Rebirth Special. The DC Rebirth Special is good. Mostly it reminds me of Countdown to Infinite Crisis, the story where the Ted Kord Blue Beetle died. Structurally, they're very similar, except in this case it ends on a much more positive note than that one. Basically, the special is the story of Wally West trying to get into the New 52 universe. History had been changed by the events of Flashpoint, and in this reality, he didn't exist. But he survived the reboot by being in the Speed Force. His attempts throughout the book to enter the universe failed, but suddenly when he appeared to Barry Allen, Barry was able to remember him and pull him free. It was clear even from then that entering into the New 52 universe, time itself was rewriting itself to accommodate his presence and slowly erasing his memory of the pre-New 52 universe. He remembered existing there. He remembered his wife, Linda Park, but a lot of other details ended up lost as he became integrated with this universe's history. And one of those details that he forgot was, well, that he had 2 children. So now I'm just waiting for Quicksilver to show up and tell Wally he needs to alter the world so everyone's a speedster or something. In the lead up to Heroes in Crisis, Wally is told about his lost children and his memory of them is restored. Through some shenanigans, Wally's access to time travel is lost, and instead of working with Wally to actually find his kids, it's revealed that they are indeed alive and somewhere out there. It's decided to send Wally to a place called Sanctuary, which is the focus of this event. A facility that's supposed to help heroes get treatment and help with the psychological difficulties they're experiencing. And that's where we pick things up now. Let's dig into Heroes in Crisis and try to unpack this crap.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
No in-depth look at all the covers, but I do feel the first issues should be called out for a few reasons. One, it's used for the trade cover, and people sometimes feel I should just look at the trade cover if I'm reading from a trade. And I'm not going to regularly. As I have explained before, the cover to a trade is not as important as it is for a single issue's cover with the way comic books are usually displayed in comic stores. Two, it is actually quite a bit deceptive. Several characters shown in this cover are not in this story at all. Big Barda and Mr. Miracle? Nope. Hawkman and Hawkgirl? Nope. Starfire? She's in the background of one shot, but that's it. 3, Batgirl over here. A minor point perhaps, but she's wearing the costume she was sporting for quite a while in her solo title. Possibly my favorite outfit of hers because of its functionality and just unique look amongst the Bat family members. For whatever stupid reason, the same month this first issue came out, she switched costumes to one I'm not as fond of. A gray and yellow number that looks far less functional and even does a worse job of hiding her secret identity because it's just a domino mask and what look like cat ears. Hey look guys, can you tell who I am? Ha? Can you? Surprise, it was me the whole time! And frankly, the artwork of her in this is a bit wince-inducing, as we'll get into later. And finally, number 4. You may have noticed Superman is holding this weird golden mask and bloody white robe. In fact, if you look at the background of the cover, you'll see several figures wearing this outfit. Well, this must be an important plot point for the story, considering how much significance is paid to it on this cover, another cover, and at a later point in the book. It's a big fat load of nothing. At best, it's a red herring, but not even a red herring for the people investigating the mystery. It's absolutely unimportant. Yet here we are putting it front and center in the first issue of the damn event comic. We open in a diner in Gordon, Nebraska. Booster Gold is being served some coffee. Don't get too many superheroes here in Gordon, Nebraska, let me tell you. Yeah, we don't get any superheroes up here in city, state. That's a natural way to have dialogue, let me tell you. Harley Quinn enters, the diner owner asking if there's going to be a fight, which Booster confirms. This moves into our title page, where Superman is flying over this SimCity zoning map that's supposed to be farmland. Heroes in Crisis, Part 1. I'm just warming up. Oh, we know very well that the garbage in the first issue is just a warm-up for what's to come, comic. I'd say I'm warming up to burn it. Haven't done an actual physical burn of a comic in a long while, but I refuse to have a physical copy in my house, so here we are. This moves us into one of the big parts of the series, these confessional moments where a character talks to us about their varied histories, psychological issues, and other problems that befell them in their lives. Some of these are actually rather good, giving us some fascinating insight and other angles to consider characters. And then there are others that are, well, not to put too fine a point on this, idiotic. Most are done in the 9-panel format. Some have only 1 or a few panels and split them up. And I do wonder if this was meant to be a really poor homage to Watchmen, because there's a blatant Watchmen reference later on for absolutely no reason. It kind of makes me speculate that maybe this was meant to be like following in the footsteps of Watchmen, which touched on some of the psychological issues that can stem from superheroics. And really, in turn, shows a lack of internal editorial consistency at DC, given what else was going on at the time, which we'll get into later. Anyway, Harley gets the first of these, and that may have been a really, really poor choice. Now, it's already head-tilting because the first thing she says, the former psychiatrist, is that she doesn't believe in trauma. Now, I'm inclined to believe that this is being ironic. She doesn't actually believe that, especially in a comic about trauma, but that's not a great place to start from, and not made any better by the fact that she should not be giving one of these at all, since she's not supposed to be where these are being done. She's crashing with Poison Ivy without anyone knowing. But whatever, yeah, she collapses into tears after talking about the harm she's done with the Joker. In the present, Harley sits down next to Booster and orders some pie, and makes Booster promise not to tell a secret. I hate pudding. Wow, and there's our Harley Quinn Hail Hydra moment. She is given her pie. This is perfect. Smells like America. Harley Quinn, a sponsor for Denny's. So we move on from that to, well, there's no way else of talking about it without just getting into it. It's something you wouldn't necessarily catch on the first read-through, but since I have read this thing, it truly is a what the actual hell moment. Some crows seem to be feasting on a dead bird. Except in the next panel, we can see a little blue cowl hanging from its beak and the entrails. The superhero Blue Jay, in his confessional, admits that he's having problems with his size-changing powers and will often wake up having shrunk. I think this comic may have suggested that his body was eaten by crows. Just warming up! As Superman arrives at a house in the middle of the area, Harley attacks Booster Gold and tries to stab him to death. As Batman and Wonder Woman also proceed to the house, we learn that Blue Jay is not the only one dead. There's a huge assortment of corpses near the house, mostly B-list heroes. And yes, of course, most of them are former Teen Titans. DC just seems to have this massive hate-on for my favorite team, trying to get them all killed in one event or another. I'd say it's just because their roster has been so expansive over the years, but it still feels disproportionately weighted towards them. Of note is Hotspot, aka formerly Jodo, aka formerly Slagger, from the Dan Jurgens Teen Titans run. Oh god, I just remembered that this is his second time dying. DC has killed so many characters that they're looping around again to kill the same ones over. We get his confession segment, which is where the "I'm just warming up" thing comes from, supposedly his catchphrase that he never said before. This sequence illustrates 2 problems with the writing. 1, Tom King just made up whole cloth a bunch of stuff about several of the heroes he was killing in this. Some stuff he gets right, which clearly seems to be a sign that he was at least somewhat familiar with other heroes. But then ones like Hotspot here, it's just, well, I guess the serious-minded one in his Titans group had a catchphrase that he never, ever used. And then there's the second problem. The confession segments are padding. And I mean genuine padding. This comic is stuffed with irrelevancy and nothingness. House of M had padding that was either stretching the material or had bits of character pathos for the people we were following. Secret Empire had padding that was expansion of material happening in the overall event that should have been in a tie-in issue, but still was part of the same event. Now, one might say, well, isn't this character stuff? Isn't this giving a deeper look into these heroes and the struggles they were experiencing? Yep. And now they're dead. You give us a bunch of panels teasing insight, teasing character development, a glimpse of a story. But what does it matter? They're dead. You killed them. That's all they get. That's how unimportant they were to you. When I mentioned on Twitter the sheer amount of padding like this that's actually in the story, some argued that it was to make you feel something more about them, to feel like their deaths mattered. You shouldn't need to see characters intimately and privately confessing their pain and hardships to feel bad they're dead. They were characters who already existed, already had a history and fans. It doesn't make it more poignant, it makes it wasteful. Here, you could have had a story about Hotspot dealing with his fears of being a superhero and fears of dying, but instead here's a story where Superman finds his corpse and can't remember his catchphrase we made up for this story. Back to the fight, Booster takes Harley Quinn and decides to fly her to the Hall of Justice, implying during the fight that she's the one who killed everyone at Sanctuary. We all need justice. Oh yes, we so very much do. And together, we can be justice! And wow, I am getting some cry for justice vibes in this book. Stilted dialogue, killing characters for no good reason. Inside the house, Superman finds the dead bodies of Roy Harper and Wally West. I don't even know where to go with this part. Roy Harper has been such a mess for so many years, and it's just so depressing. We'll talk about Wally later, of course, but just poor Roy. Such a waste, such a load of crap after everything his character has gone through the last 15 years. We get Roy's confessional, where he talks about how he got into drugs in the New 52 universe thanks to pain medication and eventually transitioned into heroin. I can't remember if that's the way that worked for him in the New 52. I've been too busy hating his stupid hat during all this time. Now, this is only important for me to bring up because of continuity stuff we'll get to later. While Harley manages to stab Booster Gold in midair, Superman finds the remains of robot attendants of Sanctuary, with "The Puddlers are all dead" scribbled onto the wall. Batman and Wonder Woman arrive. It is a term for those who work in iron, who make weapons, swords. Puddlers skim the molten metal, remove the impurities so the iron can be strong. Clearly, someone has killed the local Puddlers Union. Batman reasons that it means that someone who is being treated at Sanctuary is responsible for the deaths, because Batman likes to jump to conclusions. Harley and Booster crash into a pond and both accuse the other of being the one who murdered everyone at Sanctuary. We then see Booster's confessional, which gives us a slightly better idea of what Sanctuary is, as well as how mind-numbingly terrible it is. And you are Sanctuary, the robot super-reality therapist built with Kryptonian tech and infused with the will of Batman, the compassion of Wonder Woman, and of course, the honor of Superman. He's not speaking metaphorically. Sanctuary has no doctors. It has no therapists, no nurses, no psychologists, no psychiatrists, no mental health professionals within it whatsoever. It is run and operated by an artificial intelligence that somehow contains each of the Trinity's best traits. These three are the greatest heroes of the DC universe. Their ability to overcome the worst evils of not only their world, but any world demonstrate the best qualities of heroism. They are people to be admired, looked up to, and sought after for any number of reasons. But they are not doctors. They are not trained in this area. And I have no idea how the hell you imbue an artificial intelligence with the honor of Superman or the will of Batman. Assuming that's not just Booster being flowery. But even if he is, let's just say that they, scanned the neural patterns of their brains into one super AI. You still don't get a doctor out of that! You know what you would probably get? Well, you see, Hotspot, your problems are over there, and over there needs to take down rock and roll music. One face is secretly distributing evil VHS tapes. I know this because I'm not human. I don't know what it is to be human. Why haven't my pants been darkened yet? I don't know how any of them could have thought this was a good idea. None of them are this stupid. It defies anything we know about these characters to ever believe that they thought this was a good idea. It is impossible that these three could be such utter morons.
Your incompetence is staggering.
And it only gets worse when we actually see this form of therapy in action. But for now, we see Poison Ivy's confessional. Yeah, in case you didn't know, they've been pushing Poison Ivy into more of an anti-hero role for a while now. I'm not against it at all, but that's why they qualify her to be here, even though, you know, traditionally she's a supervillain. Which is interrupted by Harley, and where we learn that she's not supposed to be here. And this demonstrates the next level of stupidity when it comes to Sanctuary. There are no guards, no security, no monitoring of the heroes who are getting treatment there, because Harley Quinn can just waltz right in and nobody knows about it until after this mess. Speaking of her, Harley, I guess, walks from Nebraska to Gotham, or maybe they were flying long enough to get closer to it, and goes to the Penguin to try to get some protection from the people who will probably be coming after her soon. Meanwhile, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are performing, I don't know, I guess an autopsy on Commander Steel, and we learn some more about those confessions and anything else that happens there.
Sanctuary is anonymous. This allows heroes to talk about their pain and shame. All information gathered by Sanctuary is immediately deleted.
Then why gather information at all? Why not just set up a fake camera? Why have any camera? Why are there no therapists there? Superman and Wundy assume that Batman must have built a backdoor to spy on them or gather information so as to learn their weaknesses, but Batman claims he did not. It needed to be anonymous, probably for privacy concerns, especially since he himself used it. In the examination, there's no evidence that Commander Steel's body was injured, but there's some novelty teeth that he was apparently forced to swallow. Not sure how the hell you can do that with something that size, but I'm not a doctor. And neither are these three. But yeah, that is a pretty unique and bizarre piece of evidence in this murder mystery. Sure as hell would like to know what the hell the deal is with it, because it is never brought up again. So, yeah, if there's any event comic that this thing reminds me of, it's Identity Crisis. Both are murder mysteries that supposedly touch on a good chunk of the DC universe. Several pieces of evidence are presented and then tossed aside. Everything is taken very seriously, and when you ultimately break down the murder mystery, neither makes any sense and kind of feels like they were originally going in a different direction. And the sad thing is that Identity Crisis is actually the better comic of these two. Yeah, the one with horrific retcons about the behavior of our heroes and a traumatic, terrible event happening to Sue Dibney shoved in just to seem more mature. And it's still better than this. After Batman's confessional, Booster is woken up by Skeets, who managed to heal him and wants to know what the hell is going on. Yeah, so I was at Sanctuary because I was crazy. Yeah, we ever gonna get an explanation for why that supposedly happened to you? Because we never got one in The Gift, and I kind of figured that a comic that was about people's mental states and what might harm their mental health would, you know, kind of get into that. Especially when before that comic, you were perfectly fine! But yeah, he mentions that his force field wasn't working during their fight, and that both he and Harley are convinced the other is responsible for the murders. Harley is staying at some warehouse, and for some reason decided to put on her old costume. Now, I've argued in the past that I prefer Harley's old costume to all the other looks she's sported, but honestly, I think that the Harley Quinn animated series has sold me more on her outfit there than any other. I think it helps that most of those other instances were just very stupid people who assumed that less clothes equals sexier, whereas in that, the outfit is more of a statement on her getting away from the Joker. And she's wearing her old costume here because the comic's not very good. I'd say it's because she feels like a straight-up villain again, but that makes no sense because she believes that Booster Gold killed everyone at Sanctuary. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman have tracked Harley to this warehouse, no doubt having gotten the info from the Penguin himself, and while Booster decides to try to solve the case himself instead of turning himself in, or at least calling the League to let them know what happened, because right now King is writing him like he's completely flipped his lid, Harley tells the Trinity that Booster killed everyone. And then somehow manages to grab hold of Wonder Woman's lasso and get it around Batman's neck, getting him to admit where he keeps kryptonite, and then gets away from the three greatest heroes of the DCU, despite having no means of escape from people with super speed and flight! I guess I can believe that these three managed to screw up Sanctuary's concept so badly, because these three are dumbasses! Booster heads to Central City and encounters the Flash. He babbles a whole bunch about what happened at Sanctuary and needs help with his investigation. Naturally, upon hearing that Wally is dead and how he might have done it, Barry zips over to confirm, then zooms back and punches Booster across the face. I know I shouldn't feel good about that, but I just have such a hard time believing that this is Booster Gold at all, that it just feels so nice that someone finally shut him up.